Hi, I'm Liz Cully, and welcome back to Cool, Cool, Cool. Each week, I give you a glimpse into what I think is cool and chat with a ton of people that are definitely cool. No topic is off bounds unless, I guess, it's not cool. Welcome to Cool, Cool, Cool. He's not here tonight, but I have to give a shout out to Ken Phillips before we get started, Margaret, because Ken, who has worked with you for a long time, I have literally begged him. Every 6 months, I'd be like, so what's Margaret Cho up to? Anyway, San Francisco native, you're dying to have her on my show. And he'd be like, oh, she's not doing any podcast. And I'm like, but I think she is, and that's okay. So Margaret Cho, thank you for this Make-A-Wish Foundation.
Oh, thank you.
Evening tonight.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Comedian, musician, writer, actor, activist, San Francisco native, 5-time Grammy, Emmy nominee, sold a show to ABC in 1994. I mean, Margaret, I could keep going and going, which I will over the next 40 minutes or so, but you are such a important legend icon. Oh, this is Lucia, who is...
Oh, Sidla, my baby. My daughter.
Oh, she's a baby. You guys know how we feel about chihuahuas in this household. So, is there anything that you have not done yet that you're like, this is the next thing I might do? That was crazy
so
for that
smooth.
to go out.
That was so smooth.
Was it?
I mean, it was almost it was like a continuous motion that you were like, it was this incredibly fluid
Drop
action.
Mic on the
I love
front.
it.
Are you gonna, is there anything on your bucket list that you haven't quite done that you're thinking of doing?
I don't know. Gosh, what would be, I think, I think it's just being open to things, or just being open to whatever I might be interested in, and kind of taking a look at seeing what draws me to that. But I think now it's more about digging in. Now I'm very much about stepping into the role as a gay elder.
Yeah.
Because I think young gay people, young trans people, young non-binary people need people to look to realize, oh, I'm going to survive and grow up to be a gay adult.
Yeah.
So I think modeling gay adulthood, happy gay adulthood, is really important. So gay eldership is what I think I'm trying to step into. Because I always wanted to be a kid. I always want to be young and rock and roll. But then I'm like, oh, well, what if I was an elder that could be respectable, and people ask me questions about that kind of stuff. To me, that's really what I want to do. So I'm always trying to tell gay people, you have to look happy at all times, so that young gay people will see you and realize it's possible to grow up. No matter how unhappy you are, you have to really try to look like you're killing it with life, being super happy and, drinking a $15 juice with your partner who you hate, and you are holding their hand when you're digging your fingernails into their palm, but you're still presenting joy.
I need to really take heed to that, because you clearly don't follow me on social media. Because I'm just I can't do it all the time. But yeah, I think, you are, elder or not, I think you're young spirited, and you always will be. But you've always been somebody that, especially, I know Winter and I both being from San Francisco, I mean, you have been such a mate. I've looked up to you my whole life. When I think about the word queer and how radical and how youthful and how antagonistic in the best way possible, I think Margaret Cho.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful.
Do you still identify queer?
Yes. Yes. And I think even within the queer community, even the queerest of the queer, I think as being I'm an old school bisexual. I'm a disco Studio 54 bisexual, a traditional.
Well, Margaret, let me tell you, I hold on to my bisexuality. I'm white knuckling it. I won't let it go.
Well, it's a very it's a precarious position to be in, because there's a few reasons. Because I don't believe that there's two genders. I think gender is limitless. thing that there's lots and lots of different interpretations of gender. So I think bisexuality is feeding into the binary. So I don't like that. The other thing is like, it's just the most maligned area of queerness because you're kind of straight. So you're in a weird, precarious position where we can sort of pass in a way. So
Right.
we're not really in either world fully, you know, and so therein lies the queerest of the queer, where the queers amongst the queers.
I love that because it's so funny. No one would ever think that I would be straight. No one would ever think I'm like a Brentwood mom. That was a joke. Everybody laughs. No, I mean, but I think being queer, you know, there, of course, when we were younger, and I think in the 80s and the 90s, people would use it in a derogatory way. But growing up in San Francisco during that time, queerness to me was like the queeros. Like they were the coolest, like amazing people, especially like in the Mission. I'd be like, yeah, like they were so radical and great. But you're right. I think bisexuality, because it's been sort of outcast within the queer community or the, you know, LGBTQIA plus community for so long, I guess you're right. We are like the queerest of the queer.
It is like totally, it to me, it's the experience of Catherine in Basic Instinct. You know, when you're looking at Sharon Stone, and she is the lesbian who doesn't wear a vest, because everybody who wears a vest in that movie is 100% gay, but she doesn't wear a vest. She wears like a, you know, that dress without underwear. She's like, you know,
Yeah.
having sex with Michael Douglas and Roxy. And so she is, and she's like a traitor in both ways. She's like you can't trust her because she's got the Hermes scarf, but also the ice pick. So that's what bisexuality has sort of like that definition of bisexuality stuck with me. And I think for the rest of the community in our generation.
I've heard you say in interviews that your parents really had kind of a hard time accepting the bisexuality label.
They don't like it. They like gay.
Okay.
They like straight. They don't like bisexual. No, this you have to decide because you cannot. How can you no? How can you? No. Like they really are very much. You have to pick one. Just pick one.
Well, your parents are quite cool. You grew up in San Francisco. We have to get there. There are too many people at home that were like, okay, we have some questions for Miss Cho. I'm like, I know, we're gonna get there. But your parents had a gay bookstore. Is that right?
They had a gay bookstore. It was called Paperback Traffic. It was on the corner of Polk and California. We would host.
Isn't that right near where Good? What is the section? Yeah, Good Vibrations. Isn't that right there?
I don't know. The Good Vibrations that I know is in the Mission.
Yeah, but I think there's you're right. But I think there's another one outpost up on California Polk.
A Russian Hill outpost.
Right across the street from Polkers, and also, oh God, what's that venue? Yeah, but that's a very queer, that was always kind of a cruisy area, I feel like, of Polk, right?
It's a very, it was the second neighborhood to the Castro. It was always a very gay neighborhood, and so my parents had a gay bookstore there, and we had readings and signings by Armistead Mopan, and it was a really, it wasn't like a different light. It was more, I think, they modeled it after City Lights. They wanted it to be like that. So, and so it was all gay employees who were early followers of Harvey Milk, and, you know, so it was a very exciting time to be gay and to be political.
So they were obviously around a lot of queer and gay people. And so I've read that you had originally come out as a lesbian.
Yes.
So was that chill? And then you just really rocked the boat with the bisexuality later on?
That was like, it was chill. And like, this is how chill it was. Like, I was 18. I was in a relationship with a woman who was in her 50s.
That's so San Francisco.
Just so
I'm sorry.
San Francisco.
I'm just
oh my God.
Dead.
It's so San Francisco. And it wasn't.
Did she live in Noe Valley?
No, she lived in a warehouse in South of Market.
Yes, she did.
And there weren't any rooms. It was all pedestals of like it was like go-go dance boxes, but that was just like where she would have her separate rooms. Like one had a bathtub on it, one had a couch on it. Like it was like being in a nightclub, but it was so San Francisco. And so
San Francisco.
I would go on the road, and then she would like come and visit my mom, and they would have tea and just talk, I guess, about me, but I don't really know. And I'm like thinking about that. I'm like, oh my God. Like I try to picture myself dating an 18-year-old and then going to their family home and talking to their parents. I would never. I can't even imagine that.
Were you guys like going to the End Up and like the Stud?
She was sober. Oh, okay. So we were not.
Also very lesbian.
We were going in her Vanagon. You know, it was like the van, the VW Bug van, or not Bug, but van that popped up, that had the big lesbian pop up in the tops where you could just be real gay when you popped it up. And we had like early van life. It was really van life.
Now, what was not chill, though, in some ways, if you're familiar with the school system in San Francisco, is you went to Lowell for a time. Which is so high pressure.
Yes.
And am I correct in that you then transferred to SOTA, School of the Arts?
Yes.
Woo! Were you okay? And for those of you guys not from San Francisco, it was on Portola, or it is on Portola. It was like near McAllister. Like we would smoke weed. We loved these people from SOTA. I like dreamed of going there. It was the best. Were you there around like the time of Aisha Tyler? Like,
we were in the same class. So Aisha Tyler and Sam Rockwell and I were all in the same class. And then so our teacher would sign us up for open mic nights at the Other Cafe, which is a comedy club.
Of course, yeah.
And Sam and I were a double act, and we would do comedy, which you can see on YouTube. There's a little bit of it on there with Aisha too. And so we were still in school, but we were doing these comedy show nights, and it was really amazing. Yeah,
that was such a special time in San Francisco. I think people always say, oh, do you miss home? And I always say I miss a version of San Francisco that no longer exists, but I feel so privileged to have seen it, even if I was young, where I was like kind of peeking in. But you had, I think, one of the most special times in San Francisco, which is really exciting.
Yeah, I'm really lucky, yes.
And you and I also share a mutual love and friend. Somebody that I was blessed to grow up with was Robin Williams and his mother, Lori, who I don't know. Did you ever cross paths with Lori?
I never met Lori.
So for those of you guys who don't know, Robin's mother, her name was Lori. She was this tall. She used to wear white driving gloves and sit on two yellow pages. She was nuts. She was amazing. He would always say that she actually was probably where he got all of his comedy chops from. So, growing up in San Francisco, having such an iconic figure like Robin be your friend and, family, you've really stepped into a lot of what many loved about him, which is that you've really given back to the community. I mean, you have mentored so many people in entertainment, but I know that you've done so much charity work and you are an activist. You've been talking about racism, sexism, sexual assault, which I appreciate. And how have you continued that in sort of this interesting TikTok-y world that we live in now?
Well, I think it's more important now than ever, especially for the queer community. We have to stand up for so much of what's going on. We have to stand up for all of these anti-gay, anti-trans bills that are happening. It's so disgusting what the Christian right are trying to do to the trans community, to kids, to trans kids. It's just so incredibly upsetting to me. So now more than ever, it's so important to be involved in what's happening. And so it's just it's a really scary time. I mean, I don't know what's going on. Like we're losing rights here and there all the time, every day. And I think it's just something that we have to really pay attention to. But I get like almost fatigued by the outrage. Every day there's a new outrage.
Well, and you've been outspokenly outraged, as we all where some of us haven't had the platform or the voice to do so, and you've been consistently doing it for so long. And, I think for me as a young woman watching your comedy, I mean, you would talk about things that like, I felt like nobody had the guts to talk about. Have you ever gotten on stage and been nervous to talk about anything before? Or how do you handle that if you do ever feel nervous?
I don't know. I don't think so. I mean, it's really like, I think if there's a point of view that is really nuanced and thoughtful, it should be shared. So I don't know if I'm nervous to talk about things as much as I want to make sure I can get my views across in a way that are funny, but also really how I feel. So, but it's tough. It can be really tough.
You also talk obviously about a lot of very funny things. Somebody that I loved and a show that I watched religiously on YouTube was In Bed with Joan Rivers, who you have talked about a lot as your comedy mother. She has, Joan did so many things for women in general entertainment in the world, but also in comedy. You seemed so, by the way, if you have not watched that show on YouTube, you should. Margaret's episode is amazing. You just slide into bed and talk about the most outlandish shit with Joan Rivers. And I absolutely love it. What do you think Joan Rivers would say about the TikTok world that we live in today?
She would love it. I think she would really thrive on TikTok. I think she would be on there trying to do the dances, break a hip. She really loved young people, and she loved what people are doing. She loved innovation. And I think she would just be having a blast. With all of the things that are going on, she would have so much to say. I think she would have a great time on social media. I think I really miss her. And I met her because she wanted to give me an award for a show that I was doing in New York. And so we went and she gave me the award, and then we had dinner, and she's like, I just launched a line of jewelry. I'm going to give you all my jewelry. I love you. It's going to look so great on you. And I don't wear jewelry. And then she said, and then she didn't talk to me again for 2 years. And then after that, after she sort of digested that I didn't wear jewelry, she came back and she's like, I guess I understand, but all right. And she was so incredibly my champion of anything. Like if I did badly at a show, and she would talk about it, and she's like, I fucking hate them. Like she would just, how dare they? I don't fucking know shit. And she just would get so mad on my behalf. Like I love a friend who will get mad on your behalf. Like
I am that friend.
Yeah. Like where are they? Like taking her earrings off. Where are they? Let me fucking at them. And so that I miss the presence of somebody that would just fight your battles for you and be so incensed on your behalf like that. I don't really have any sort of feeling like that. Like she was just one of a kind. And when I would go see her do comedy, she would never allow you to tell her you were there, because she would be so nervous.
Yeah.
She had really debilitating stage fright. And so she would not come out of her dressing room, and she would not see you until after the show. She didn't want to know you were there. So there were these quirks. When we do Fashion Police in the morning, we'd get there at 4 or 5 in the morning because we'd have to cover the award shows. And so her coffee cup, she would empty out and fill it with Chardonnay and just be fucking wasted, doing it. Just these things. She was just really...
it's buttery. It is the wine for the morning.
It's the thing that you want. But I just miss those little things, those little moments of what an exceptional life, an exceptional person. So yeah, she was... I hope that people remember her. I do see sometimes I'll see people do things on TikTok where they'll mouth her old routines, they'll lip sync her old routines. And I just think that's just so beautiful.
It's really important in, no matter what industry you're in, to have that camaraderie, to have that mentorship. And I think, when I was researching you, what I also thought was so incredible is, you had to sell a show to ABC in 1994, All American Girl, you can applause because I watched that. I was like, oh my God, she's so cool. She lives in San Francisco. What? It was, and I just remember so many iconic scenes. But you went on, to really pioneer many different things that you did in your own career, but show other comedians that they didn't just have, they could sell a show, that they could do that. What was it like? What was the process like coming up with that show and selling it to ABC in 1994?
Well, it was really weird because they were trying to do a lot of TV shows about based on comedians, but my comedy was never wholesome. It was never family oriented.
No, it's not
at all.
So that is why it's amazing.
Yeah. My comedy's always been about me being crass and my parents being ashamed. So that's kind of like the story. And so it was really hard for them to kind of form that into like a family television show. I think their intentions were very noble because they wanted to have an Asian American family on TV. But this idea that I could be molded into that was a really challenging one. So it was hard to fit into sort of like the 8 o'clock hour in television then because it was so different. We only had 3 channels. Fox had just started. Right. So you're really trying to look at almost a 1950s model of television. So it was a very difficult thing as for a nightclub comedian to go into that role. So I was really blindsided by television. And then there was the problem was I was too fat to be myself. You're too fat to play the role of yourself. That's a horrifying thing too. So then I immediately got on fen-phen, which that was like that when you get like a prescribed drug, they say, okay, whatever you do, don't drink alcohol when you take this. And so whenever I hear that, I'm like, oh, you mean drink alcohol when I take this?
Right.
So I love on a prescription bottle where they have the sleepy eye. I'm like, oh yeah, that's going to be the good shit. So I was out of my mind, because I was not eating and drinking alcohol and being thin, but I thought that was my job. I have to be thin is my job. And it was like a full-time fucking job. When you're like trying to be television thin in the 90s, they would have to like have all your food brought to you in these weird little containers and then running up and down fucking stairs with a trainer.
Yeah, it's bullshit. And you're like wearing a ton of clothes. I mean, listen, anyone that's listened to my show has heard it a million times. I couldn't keep up with being thin. It was like I look back at the photos of myself when I was still auditioning and going in and pilot season, and I'm like, damn, I would love to be 10 pounds thinner than that right there. And it was too hard. It was just, and you like lose your fucking mind.
Yeah.
Well, I watched your Just for Laughs routine from 1993, which is fucking hilarious. Also on YouTube. YouTube, what a resource. Which you should definitely watch. But you were quite edgy. I mean, you were like going for it. Another thing that, and then you had your breakout, I'm the one that you want. You turn it into a million different avenues. And then I was reading that you really controlled the sale of I'm the one that you want.
Yeah, it was
talk me through that a little bit.
It was in reels, and so I would take it to film festivals, and then I would do a presentation at different places, and then take the tickets also in the front, which is really great. So you were able to this is before streaming, so that you sort of had to get your film out there, and because it wasn't I wanted to do a comedy special, but it wasn't an hour. It was an hour and a half. And I wanted to have a little bit of more freedom to present it in the way that I wanted to. So it was great to do that.
I just feel like a lot of, especially late night comedians weren't doing that. But I mean, you really were like, I'm going to sell this, I'm going to have control.
Yeah.
Was that also because of the experience that you had with ABC, or was that just because you were learning the business in real time and wanted more control?
I just didn't know exactly how to get my work out there, I didn't know how, and there were no roles in like movies for Asian Americans or, there's no television shows for Asian Americans. It was not like I had any other way to get my work out there. So I was working in comedy clubs and I was working in theaters, but I still wanted to have the film element that I could push out there.
Well, you had a big week in Tribeca this week.
Yeah.
Not one, but 2. Short film, A Family Guide to Hunting, and All That We Love, both been officially Tribeca selected. Mm-hmm. That's hilarious.
Cool.
Yeah. It's so cool.
It's cool. I have three films at Tribeca.
3. Oh, fuck me. Damn it, Ken's never gonna book you again for me. Okay. Sorry, 3. Sorry.
So it's it's also the history of queer comedy.
Oh, right, with Paige Hurwitz.
Yes, Paige.
Who's a darling friend. Oh God, don't tell Paige that I
Cut that part out. Cut that part out. We'll redo that part.
Paige Hurwitz is going. She scare me, girl. Let me tell you, I have known Paige for a long time. She'll come for me. But that's really exciting as well, and that'll be on Netflix, right? Mm-hmm. Okay. See, I did get that right. So going back to Joan. Going back to your time in bed with her, but also talking about the first time I ever saw you, I will never forget it. I believe it might have been at Cobb's. It was not actually, we were quite young, both of us. Lucia was there. You talked about dating Chris Isaac. Give me some. You got to give me something.
Well,
I mean, I'm like, whoa, I just died. I'm like, what? I mean, what an iconic 90s matchup.
I would talk about him in my comedy. He got so mad.
Oh, there we go.
And then,
yeah, because you don't talk about it really that. I saw it in person.
Well, I was talking about how what it was about was the joke that it was like I was so nervous to be around him because he's a legit rock star, and this is in the 90s. So we actually watched OJ and is it AC Cal drive the Bronco together in bed. That's the most 90s thing. We were laying in bed watching the drive and like amazed. AJ Cowlings were like amazed. It's like, oh, it's a real friend that would like drive with you on that.
That was the tidbit that I was looking for. Doesn't he live in the Bay? Did you meet him in the Bay Area?
Yeah, I met him going to shows in San Francisco. But the joke that I would do about him was he was such a legit rock star, and I was so nervous to be around him. And we would spend all this time together, and I was so scared to fart that I would pretend that I was stretching, and then I would hold my asshole open and let my fart just sigh into the air, like. So he was so
risky,
mad.
Margaret. That's risky.
I know, because you better be sure it's a fart. Like, how could any of us? How would any of us really know? Could you really gamble like that?
It also could be like a long wheezing. So I mean, there's so many variations.
Is gone, but if you hold your asshole open, then there's no.
Oh right.
Friction.
Right.
To make so the sound is gone. You just have that air passing. Yeah, like the.
God, I got it. Ha.
So he was so mad that I was telling that joke, and then anyway, he actually did. He did a TV show many years later, and he did an episode about it. But he asked me to be in it, but for whatever reason, I couldn't do it. So Caroline Ray plays me, and she's in bed with him.
Watching OJ?
I don't know if that. I don't know. I don't think they got that detailed. I think they wanted to push it forward in time.
I mean, it just sears in my memory where I was just gooped, gagged, gobsmacked. I'm like, oh my God, Margaret Cho, this is so. You just keep getting more iconic. It just doesn't end. I also. You dated Quentin Tarantino, who was also iconic 90s character. Any tea you want to spill?
The tea of like he just it was more the reaction of people. Like you realize that having power in show business, like the way that he did, it is almost like a drug, and people would fall at his feet and just worship. I mean, could you imagine? Like we were like. This is around the awards show season where Pulp Fiction was getting all the awards, and Pulp Fiction was such an innovative film, so we would go to like Musso and Frank's or like the Cheesecake Factory, and people would just be falling all over themselves, and and it was just a funny thing. And he took me in a Geo Metro, which was all bashed out. Yeah, he was driving a Geo Metro. It was all bashed out, could barely drive. Remember that car? That was his car. That he would just drive me around, and it was like, but people would still take that car at the valet parking, and can you imagine? So dead. Incredible.
That's wild. Was he just cheap?
Well, he was still like had the mentality of like, oh, I work in a video store, so I don't think I should. I don't need a new car.
That's so crazy.
He still had that. I know, but he also had like this very big red convertible that is I think it's actually in Pulp Fiction. That is one of this one of the clear classic cars, but it barely run. So the more reliable car was the Geo Metro.
Damn, I feel like I have definitely smoked weed in a Geo Metro at Twin Peaks in San Francisco.
It's definitely a hot boxing car.
100%.
But we would just watch. He had like a TV that had everything was letterboxed. So no matter what, so we would just watch Family Ties. And it was letterboxed.
Mallory.
It looked very serious.
Her.
I know. I love Mallory.
Mallory.
I still love her.
100%. I have this horrible, well, maybe it's not horrible. Maybe it's an amazing seventh sense where I believe that I know the Batemans, but I never know that they're famous people. So I did, when I first moved to Los Angeles, I was at the Whole Foods on Fairfax, and I followed Jason Bateman around the entire store going, are you from San Francisco? Do you know my sister, Rebecca Cully? She's like, I don't know, like 11 years older than me. Are you sure? Do you live in New York? And then later realizing, oh my God, that was Jason Bateman. And then my wife is here to corroborate this story. We were at Sunset Tower Bar, and there was fucking Mallory. And I was like, oh my God, you look so... And Rachel's just like, dude, enough with these, like, enough. I'm like, oh my God, you look so familiar. Yeah, it's fucking Justine Bateman.
I love her.
Me too. Is there anything like from the time, like from comedy in the 90s? Because I'm not done with the sex stuff. Don't worry, guys. I'll get there. But is there anything that you wish that kind of still thrived? Like whether that's like no telephones, which I know people talk about all the time, or
I wish we had queer comedy spaces like there were in San Francisco. Like Josie's Juice Joint was like the ultimate. It was a comedy club that was in the Castro, and it was this amazing place where you would have like Lip Synco would do drag shows there, but you would also have just all sorts of like queer comedians who would just do things that it was just really incredible. So you had drag, but also sketch, but also stand up, and you know, it was, to me, something that I really learned so much by working there. And I wish we had a space like that. And that to me is so quintessentially 90s, you know, with like the manager, everybody hated her. She was like this really mean lesbian, you know, those mean lesbians with a mustache and overalls who just fucking doesn't need any of your shit. Like she just like, fuck, you know, like just very mean, but you know, you just love her too. So that's what I wish we had a queer comedy space like that.
Yeah, it's interesting. I probably batted my eyelashes to get into that place a million times. Yeah, it's interesting. I think because of social media, everybody's so manicured. Even drag is so... I mean, it's amazing. It's opulence, but it's so manicured. And I think sometimes in those spaces, especially back then, you were able to be a little bit more zany, or I don't know why I just said the word zany, but here we are, but a little bit more free maybe. Yeah. And that's where I think we've lost a little bit.
I am aficionado of booger drag, which is just like drag that's just so ugly and gross that I love. That's
booger drag.
My favorite drag because it's really, you just have to allow yourself to go there. You know, my favorite is Ryan Landry in Provincetown, and he does the best. And we would do these shows where he would do a song, like a song parody. So the major one was I Totally Shit When I Fart. And, you know, Totally Eclipse of the Heart, timely. And, but Totally Shit When I Fart. And the whole point was to make me laugh. And so he took a brown Maybelline eyeshadow, he broke it, and he put it in his underwear, and then at the end of the song he pulls off his underwear and just shows me this brown makeup all over his butt and his asshole. And to me that is just, I wish you would show that on RuPaul. Like that to me, that is All Stars. Like why isn't All Stars like this?
Because All Stars is like,
it's so, everybody's so manicured.
Everybody
is
so manicured.
But you would never all the beauty of just breaking a brown eyeshadow just to put it all over your asshole so that I'll laugh is really,
I love it.
That's, to me, that's just the most precious, beautiful thing.
It seems quite beautiful.
Yeah.
we talked about TikTok many a times this evening. You are on TikTok. I love following you on TikTok. I saw that you did some filter where it was like, what kind of bisexual are you? And I'm like, I'm going to do it too. Just like Margaret Cho. But mine was like not as exciting as yours, which was a bummer. But you talk a lot about menopause and loving this time in your life. I actually did a drug deal tonight in Soho House, allegedly. I got fertility drugs given to me. I was also really worried because I thought I was going to be hopped up on hormones tonight and just fucking sobbing, being like, I love you, Margaret Cho, which I might still do. I'm ovulating.
I love you.
Yes, I love you.
I do now. I saw my gynecologist and she's like, I think your pussy's going to be glued shut if you don't do something. So she gave me a thing. So now I'm on hormones now.
Okay.
I love it. Like I feel so
Are you like,
I feel really good.
like just in
I feel strong and really
Yeah.
good. Like, but it's just something about it that it's just I'm really into it. Like I'm like, oh, this is actually really helping.
Because you feel horny? Is it like progesterone? Progesterone?
Yeah, there's that. There's progesterone and estrogen, and some testosterone in
The
that too.
T.
Yeah, some tea.
You
But
hitting it
it's
and you
just
feeling
like,
it.
yeah, it feels really balanced and really good. So I just didn't realize because my pussy was dry.
Was it?
It was so wet before, so it was like this is sad that it's so dry now. Like I have a joke about it, and I say I used to waterboard motherfuckers with this pussy, but it was so dry.
I cannot think of you having a dry puss. You couldn't
know, it's
even
so
have
sad.
a dry puss.
It's so sad.
And I wouldn't believe it.
I know.
You
It's like you can't even imagine me having a dry pussy, but it's true. Like grains of sand in the hourglass. Like it was just so dry. It was really hard to get anything in there. And it was very frustrating and difficult and upsetting. And so then I just stopped. I thought, oh, I'll just be stone for a while. I'll be a stone butch and I'll be one of those.
Yeah,
Stone-
just the strap.
I'll wear the strap. I'll wear the strap, which is also not good because I have a bad back. So that's unwise.
So much effort. So much
Unwise. Yeah, but now
The hormones are good.
I'm back. I'm back.
Well, yes. I don't think you ever left, but I think, you, as I said before, you've talked about things that people are either too nervous to talk about or they don't know how to relate to others. And menopause is something, and as women are getting older, it's like we're not supposed to talk about it. And it's like, oh God. But I think you said actually to the women on Good Morning America, which I died, you're like, I can wear white shorts. I fucking died because those bitches were like, I mean, they didn't know what to say.
Yeah.
But what are some of the most amazing things other than now you're just gushing pussy that you love from menopause?
Well, it's like, let's get into the crone. Like everybody wants to be the ingenue, but actually nobody realizes how fabulous it is to be the crone. Like I love age. Like I love that I have the experience that I have, and like now I can live life with that. And it's powerful.
Yeah.
They don't want us to realize how powerful it is to be menopausal, because then the patriarchy has no use for us. But, so they want menopause to be somehow shameful and painful and upsetting. But in truth, it's, so there are some things that are difficult, like pussy dryness and hot flashes or whatever. But once you get through those physical things, the reality is like we are actually like now truly who we were meant to be, because you don't have the interference of this idea of a biological imperative or a biological clock. You're just living by your own decisions, which is really incredible. So I love menopause.
First of all, that you should all motherfucking clap for. Because you're right, like the patriarchy does make it seem like we're fighting against this awful like clock to have a baby, and then it's menopause and then it's like over. And I'm like, no, actually Susan Sarandon's out here, Susan Summer, all the Susans, I don't know, Jane Fonda, my wife knows, and I can say it in front of her, I would fuck the living shit out of Jane Fonda.
Oh yeah.
Like for realsies. I'm so in love with her. I love an older woman. I'm surprised that I might have actually dated that woodshop woman that you dated in South of Market. Who knows? But I think there's something so powerful to say, no, this is who I am meant to be. I'm so clear. I have all of this knowledge. I have a house. Margaret and I are the Real Housewives of Glendale, which I love. Same with Lucia. And Ravioli as well, which is so exciting. You said it at the beginning, you're digging in, you're working so much. I looked on your IMDb. I'm like, damn, she's busy. She's out here. You're touring. You're a TikTok queen, which what is that even like? I don't know. I keep trying. It's not working. I don't know how to dance on there. What is the most fun thing other than menopause about your life right now?
I think the most fun thing is just I just really enjoy my life. I enjoy what I'm able to do. I so enjoy stand-up comedy. Yeah. I still really get out there and do that a few times a week, which is awesome. And I mean, I'm just enjoying the pace of it, and it just feels good. It's like so exciting that I get to see so many Asian American stories that are being told now. And it just seems so like new, and it's so thrilling and exciting.
Clap
and
for that.
Yeah, it's like amazing. And I'm always trying to back my way into that. Like, I'm like, oh, I'm in this. Don't you know, I'm actually in this. I'm like really trying to get in anywhere I can.
Well, I think a lot of those people have obviously really looked up to you. I know you've talked about Eddie Huang, who we know for a long, long time, fresh off the boat. I knew him from his Vice days. You were in Fire Island, which I've never been. And somebody DM'd me, you love Fire Island?
Yeah, you got to go. You got to go.
What happens there?
It's a lot of tea dances. It's a lot of gay bars. Well, tea. You know how the guys have like the dance at 4 p.m. So they'll have like from 4 to like 7, they'll have like a tea dance, which is they're kind of like getting ready, and you kind of sort of look at the dick in the daytime to see what you're going to do at night. And then, so you select the dick, you pre-select the dick that you're going to have later. So, but you have to see them in the light to make sure that it's cool. And then, because later on when you're fucked up, your decision making will be compromised, so once you take that GHB, nobody knows. So it's it's a function to make sure you're not making any real bad decisions for the night.
Fair enough.
Fun.
Do you go to Fire Island every summer?
Yeah, I go to Provincetown. I've been going to Provincetown since 1986 every summer, and then I've been going to Fire Island since 2008. So later, but yes.
Which do you prefer, or is it like your children you can't choose?
They're both great.
P-Town's pretty les though, isn't it?
Oh yeah, but also P-Town is also the home of booger drag. It's also where you get to
brown
see
eyeshadow.
Yeah, brown
can't
eyeshadow.
Find it. Wet and Wild, totally sold out to CVS. Dwayne Reed, can't even get
so
it.
Good.
Yeah.
Where you could see John Waters riding his bike, and it's very lesbian. It's also very to me, it's very homey. It's a place that I would love to end up someday.
Okay. Well, you can't leave Glendale. We're really we're getting an Erewhon. We saw that on Nextdoor. Yep. Let me tell you, my interests have really changed since moving to Glendale.
It's going to change the whole landscape.
It's going to be buck wild, just G-Wagons in the parking lot of Erewhon.
They're going to make
Glendale.
their own version of Zanku chicken. They're going to have their very own Erewhon Zanku.
Yeah. It really will
They're going to be making that garlic sauce.
High-end kebabs everywhere. $50 kebabs. Yeah, it'll be great. I can't wait. I feel like you're also the first adult that's really talked to conservative people about polyamory. I know we talked about your queerness. What's dating like for you right now? Are you still got a docket list? I'm
just not. I mean, no? I'm not at all. I just don't feel like I'm really motivated to. And to me, I was doing a lot, and I think it's just I don't have the energy for it.
Fair enough.
But because it's a lot, especially if you're polyamorous. The thing about polyamory is so much fucking talking. I can't. Think about how much talking you have to do anyway if you're a lesbian. Now make it even more when you're negotiating that with other lesbians and then men. Oh my God, it's so annoying.
Well,
it's so annoying.
Did you see that New York Times Magazine article about the 20-person relationship that came out?
Polycule.
What the fuck are they? Those people don't work. They're just fucking, or they're talking about it.
So much processing.
A lot of Google calendars to manage.
No way. It's too much.
Yeah,
it's too much.
Is too much. I can see that. I think, I can't remember because I've really just, your catalog is just ripping through my brain. But you talked about, being, mature, and there was 2 ways about going about it, I believe. You said you could end up in Hollywood on El Centro. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I was obsessed with living on El Centro.
Yeah, you talked about it a lot.
What if I just end up on I don't know why, it's a fine street. It's got great property values. Have you looked at it on Zillow? It's fine. It's fine. It's actually, I can't even afford it. So I don't know why I'm thinking about, it's just the idea of it was this myth of, if you don't settle down, you're going to die alone. And I kept being afraid, I'm going to die alone. And now that's the goal. Now, actually, it's way better. I hope I die alone. I better die alone. That's actually my preference. But just table for one. Coffin for one. Thanks.
I mean, listen, then you don't have to have the question every night that just fucking racks my brain. What are we going to have for dinner? What do you want to have for dinner? Are you okay with what I'm making for dinner? You're just like, fuck it. I'm just going to eat whatever I want. Yeah. Chips, here we go.
Yeah. I mean, it's really when your life becomes your own. And it's just, to me, a really beautiful thing. I've been in so many relationships and so many different kinds of relationships. It's finally really exciting to be on my own.
Yeah. Okay. Yes.
Yay.
Well, I don't know if you knew this, but today is National Lesbian Visibility Day. I did not know that, but apparently that's why they asked me to do a podcast on this day, which just shows you everything you need to know about me. But is there any, I really searched high and low. I feel like you've been a little gatekeepy about any celebrity lesbian outings or crushes. I'm really putting you on the spot, and I really, really hope that we're friends after this. And I love you so much, and I'm so thankful that you did this. But is there any wild 90s celebrity lesbian romp? No, I don't know. I'm nervous.
Nobody.
No Sandy Bernhardt. I mean, I know you guys are friends. I saw her on the show, obviously.
Yeah, I love her. I think nobody it's never been like that. All of mine have been people not in show business, not in the public eye, but certainly very big to me, very big deal.
Course.
But crushes forever.
Yeah, okay, let's go crush-wise.
Crushes, well, Joan Jett forever.
Duh.
Joan Jett, from on my end from the 80s, and then Intrigue from the 90s. One time, Joan Jett, this was the coolest, had stolen a bunch of Keith Richards' pot, and then so we went into the bathroom. It was a shower stall at the Old House of Blues in her dressing room, and we were in there with Kristen Stewart, and we got so stoned. And it was the most amazing lesbian encounter experience. I felt like I won a contest. It was some kind of amazing Melissa Etheridge sweepstakes that I had won, that I'm oh my God, I'm in the shower with Kristen Stewart and Joan Jett. We're smoking Keith Richards weed. It was the most unbelievable thing. And Joan was being honored for, all of her amazing work and
so
rock
many
and roll.
things.
I mean,
right?
It was just a great night. The Runaways movies had just been made, so that's why Kristen was there.
Oh, that
and so
makes
it was
sense.
just this incredible, that was oh my God, I can't believe I'm here.
That's the most lesbian shit ever.
The badass.
You might now
amazing
have to go back
thing.
and say you identify as a lesbian after that now, because
it just
who
knocked
needs
all
men?
the dick out. It just knocked all that dick. Who's dick? Who's dick?
What is dick?
Dick who? What?
Wow. Yeah, Melissa Etheridge just pops up at the window.
Yeah, it was just come to my window.
Dead.
It was just incredible thing. And one time, and then I went on a vacation, did a cruise with Katie Lang.
Wait, was it one of those? What it was? Olivia
Cruise with Katie Lang.
God, I want to be booked.
I've been in love with her since the 90s.
Yeah, I mean, that's Katie Lang. She really threw the cat around.
Yes.
I just saw Alicia Haley. We had dinner the other night. I was like, Alicia, come on, give me the Katie Lang. I mean, that is iconic.
I love Alicia too.
Me too. well, let's have dinner. Let's be friends.
Yeah.
All the time. Katie Lang, that's iconic. Yeah, we need some more iconic lesbians. Kristen Stewart can't carry us all on her back. She weighs 100 pounds soaking wet.
She's so beautiful.
It's like gorgeous.
I've been in love with Jenny Shimizu for
Get in line.
known her since the 90s, since she was a model, and she would come to my house and I would feed her, and in the 90s I was just always so in love with her. So yeah. So
Jenny Shimizu, I saw at the Trader Joe's in West Hollywood one time, and I just like Jason Bateman, followed her around. I mean,
she looks exactly the same too. She hasn't changed at all.
Yeah.
So she's just an incredible person and just a beautiful, beautiful person.
I mean, I could sit here truly and just try to get every bit of amazing secret stories out of you, but you've given us so much, which I'm so grateful for.
Thank you.
You're on tour. You have 3 selected Tribeca films. I want to say thank you. I was going to get real emo, but I held it back. Again, I'm ovulating. I'm being very weird, and I'm so sorry. But you bringing normalcy, I could cry right now, to a lot of things has been amazing for a lot of people.
Oh, thank you.
So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.